Would you be surprised to know that some of the most successful women of our time face challenges just like you and I do?
Hi, I'm Amber.
And I'm Lisa. We're authors of the book Leading Ladies. Discover your God-grown strategy for success.
We invite you to join us in an honest, messy bun conversation about the things we'd rather keep hidden in our lives.
Some of those things can keep us from moving forward in purpose.
So grab a cup of something delicious, kick off your shoes, and hang out with us for the next 30 minutes. Good morning, everyone. Hello, and welcome to another Coffee Chat with Amber and Lisa with our special guest, leading lady Janell Rardon, and happy 2 days after Thanksgiving.
This should be a day. I think that the third day after Thanksgiving, you just should have another day because the turkey is still left over. How many have turkey left over still?
We do.
No.
We didn't do turkey.
No. Janell, you don't eat turkey. I know.
Turkey and ham.
Turkey and ham.
It was just a table for two this year. It was lovely.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
It was lovely.
And it goes into, it's when you have a lot of people over at your house for Thanksgiving, there's the cleaning, there's the...
So much work.
There is the table setting.
Love that part.
It's just, and then you have people coming into your house.
Clean.
You don't want to talk.
Expanding conversation. So a table for two was very much received well this year.
Table for two. What did you eat, Janell?
We had a grilled pork loin. I make a mean one, and it was just yummy. And some mashed sweet potatoes, which were yummy. My husband had mashed potatoes. I can't have white potatoes. He had broccoli. I had a lovely salad. It was lovely. And we have this lovely little Italian bakery that makes just one little, like the single desserts.
Ooh,
nice.
I had my once or twice a year flourless chocolate tort, which was simply delicious. And he had his pumpkin cheesecake. So it was lovely.
We hope you all had a wonderful thing. Yeah. And that for the sake of our guests this morning, Janell is one of our leading ladies in the book.
I love being called a leading lady.
She's our
chapter 7.
And her chapter is called Live in Courageous Vulnerability.
Yeah. I have to tell you, Janell is probably one of the premier Christian communicators. I call her the Christian Brene Brown because that's how much I love what she has to offer. She has a podcast that you have to go to right after here, besides subscribing to Coffee Chat with Amber and Lisa.
Yes.
Heart Lift with Janell.
Yes.
I just love everything this woman is about, and we love introducing her to you.
Oh, finally.
So
we've been trying so hard to make this happen.
We've been trying.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I know. Just so you all know, Janell is board certified life coach, encouraging those who have experienced trauma to live and lead authentically. And we're just going to dive in today.
Let's go.
Let's talk about something that's maybe a little broader. The holiday season can be a difficult time for many. Much as so many of us love it, there can be moments. This is a tough time to get through. Yeah. And even for our country, our world, there are some things going on right now. Let's talk about the Thanksgiving holiday. As we all know, we may have not known when we were in grade school, because we were taught certain things about this nation and how this nation started and why we have Thanksgiving. Right. But now that we live in this time of information where you can get both truth and untruth in seconds at our fingertips, we now know that maybe this wholesome holiday is not so wholesome. I know there's great debate. I saw it all over my social media. People being conflicted about celebrating or being upset when people do celebrate, thinking maybe they're celebrating the atrocities that this holiday is associated with. I think about Palestine and Israel.
Oh, and sure. You can't not think about it. Right.
And when you walk into a family setting, it gets real really fast when people have strong feelings. So let's just talk about it lightly. We walk into the holiday season, we hit those family gatherings with Uncle so-and-so or Grandma so-and-so or even cousin so-and-so, where we have some very different thoughts about life and how it works.
Gen X, Gen Y, millennials are just all there.
What can you give us to help us make the most of those moments and tread lightly, but sincerely and genuinely.
There's just no other place I will ever start. I can't do anything about the little 3-year-old that is a hostage on the Gaza Strip, but pray for her. I couldn't get my mind off of her. Of course, they put her pictures up, and I prayed for her all Thanksgiving Day because her birthday was the next day. Wow. And I know they released 39 hostages yesterday. I do not know if she was one of them, but from a personal perspective, so that I don't live in a state of overwhelm, because that's really what this is. I think we call that in the work that I do, flooding, where your window of tolerance just goes either hyper vigilant. So without all that psychological jargon, I just come down to my own heart. I don't know where else to start. It just starts with me. It starts above all else. I have to guard my heart. It's the footing for what I do in my life, in my work. Everything in my life is influenced by my own heart. So I have to walk through the doorway, cross the threshold. I just did it last night, of someone else's family gathering we were kindly invited to, and sit around a table with some people I didn't even know, some I know well. But like you said, the conversation goes, and I think where I begin, and I study it a lot, is I just become an active listener. I become a person who doesn't need to fix the situation. I don't need to right the situation. I do not need to share my opinion. I don't need to prove a point. I don't need to be right. I have learned the power of agreeing to disagree. And one of the skills that I really want to bring to the table today is nonviolent communication. It is life-changing and life-saving. I have a PDF right here that I keep on my refrigerator. Say What You Mean, A Mindful Approach to Nonviolent Communication. The book that I read is by Oren J. Sofer, Sofer. And it gives you actual sentences, beginning things to say. So requests for dialogue. Someone, like a conversation turned yesterday, someone came, I was referring to a podcast I was listening to. I will not say who. And they were like, oh, how can you listen to her? She's just evil. I'm like, oh my gosh, that I wanted to go, what? But I just took a step back and I leaned in. I said, I used this first one. Would you be willing just to take a little time to have a conversation with me about that? Like, calling someone evil is pretty serious.
That's a heavy call.
Yeah.
With a 9-year-old sitting next to me.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
Because it's very opinionated. And I have just been that person.
Yeah.
I've been her.
Yeah.
I've been that dogmatic, legalistic, whatever little adjective you want to put on that. And I think COVID took me through a strainer to find out who I was without the trappings of a religious system, to find out who Jesus Christ really is and was and continues to be in my life. So when you do that, when the conversation shifts, first of all, I have to take a deep breath. I have to be very aware and then go, okay, Janell, how are you going to handle this situation? Are you going to choose to be a leading lady? Am I going to choose to be wise? Because honestly, her opinion meant nothing to me. It didn't mean anything. I didn't need to battle it. I do say in my second book, Overcoming Hurtful Words, you have to know when it's time to let something just roll off your back like water off a duck's back, or know that you need to be assertive and say something that's honest and loving and might be needed at the moment. So it's an art.
Right.
And we don't ever want to lead anyone to believe that we're just putting on for the moment.
No.
We sincerely, as Christ followers, we sincerely want to do what he did, and that is be a peacemaker.
Yes.
That's the key, Lisa.
And help acknowledge that there is far more in common between us than what we don't have in common.
I think we live in a society where we live on the offense, and it's easy. And what I think most about Jesus, and in the midst of his accusers, he said,
Nothing.
Nothing.
No.
What kind of something in the brain would it take to say nothing?
Right.
Nothing.
Nada. Zilch. Exactly.
Hard one.
That is a hard one because he knew he
Mm-hmm.
was God, but he was also very human. So we're told that he suffered all the temptations. When he was asked, what is truth?
Mhm.
I'm thinking, I can't speak for Jesus,
Yeah.
but it had to take everything in him
Yeah.
to just quiet the God part of him and just be human and stand there. And
Yeah.
what's at the core of that, Lisa
Mhm.
and Amber? What's at the core of how he could do that? Let's just really nail that down because I think it's the secret.
I think he was secure in who he was.
Mhm.
He was secure
Mhm.
in what his purpose was.
Mhm.
And I think when we get in those moments where accusations fly, and like Amber said, we're living on the offense, we often feel like we have to fill up the space with something to defend our view, ourselves, our thought patterns. And the reality is that we don't always have to agree.
We won't always agree.
And like I said earlier, there's far more that I think if we look,
Mhm.
there's far more we can agree on than we have to disagree on. Love you sincerely, genuinely, want the very best for you, and still have opposing opinions about many things.
I think that leads right into the conversation yesterday because this is what I did. And this is something I've rehearsed and practiced in the trenches. This does not come easy, learning how to navigate these kind of conversations. I do a lot of mediation work, so I'm obsessed with it, obviously. That's what I love. I'm very passionate about it. But what I was able to say was, okay, would you be willing to have more of a conversation? But then I was like, we can disagree on the personhood, okay? But what I bet you will agree with me on is that the topic was on compassionate listening.
Yes.
And the topic was about, instead of jumping right into your own comment, it was about just maybe practicing for at least even 1 hour. This is what the message was, 1 hour before you even give any of your own opinion. Just actively listen and hold that space for someone so they can just get it off their chest.
I think one of the things is when we just jump in with our thoughts and such, we are moving to conflict.
Yes.
Other than raising the atmosphere in the room to peace. So I think that's leading ladies is setting a tone that is peace, setting a tone. And if we can go into a room where people are like cussing each other out and stuff, and we can set a tone, even if we're the only one in the room doing it.
And that has been much the case in many of my own situations, for sure. I bet we all can say that.
I think the key, I don't think we listen well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't think so.
We
Lisa.
think we think it's just about hearing. It's much deeper than that. Listening to what someone else has to say, hearing what's behind their words, because there's so much more to listening and communication than just the words that fly out of our mouths. We don't know how to listen today. We don't. And maybe you hit on something, just creating that exercise where we hold our tongue.
Hold it. And the little 9-year-old, I have to add this because the little 9-year-old she's super, super wise. She's like incredible. Right after that few minutes of that comment, she went, my teacher always says we have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, touche, darling, touche.
This is the thing. Everyone says you should listen better. What is listening better? Janelle, what
we have an hour?
No,
do we have a whole conference?
I'm just saying.
Yes.
Because it's automatically, when you're taking something in, you're automatically thinking, okay, I need to come back to the comment. I need to process something. And maybe this is.
Wait a minute. This is the way I feel. I got to find a place to interject that. What I just did.
Yeah. Is there a formula to listening well? Is there a formula?
I think we've already given the formula, but we'll put it in a formulaic equation. Pause, take a breath. You brought out the point, most of us are on the offense, but there are plenty that are on the defense because we have 14 defense mechanisms. So every person we're in a conversation with has maladaptive defense mechanisms that they've grown up with. I don't care how healthy you are. It's nature nurture. So I think you immediately have like pause. And this is where the practice becomes your rhythm, right? I've practiced enough, and I guess I've also been trained enough to be able to go, okay, wow, that was a strong comment. What am I going to do with that? Right. And I'm hyper aware there's a 9-year-old sitting next to me. And we take that breath. And that breath to me is not just some silly mindful thing. You can even make it a breath prayer, which I love is coming into the forefront, all the beautiful contemplative practices. So it can just be, help me answer this correctly.
I love your breath prayers. I love how you incorporate in a very mindful way through all that you do, the breath prayer, because it is about the pause and really sucking in the goodness of God in that
the grace, the leading lady. I call them heart lifters. I'm going to stand in the center of my sphere of influence or sit at the table. I think it's just, you're doing such a good job. We're unified in what we're trying to do for women in helping us just be healthy, dang it, emotionally and mentally. And that leads to that spiritual health. So the formula is just attunement, awareness. It's taking the moment to pause. It's learning ways to have conversations. But even underneath that, you guys, we're going to go right back to that practice is happening in my daily life. I am doing what I can. I am not like the perfect role model for daily Bible reading, but I am in a state of consciousness in my life. I've walking 40 some years with Christ. It's a state of consciousness of he's always present. I'm always talking to him. I'm always being aware of him. I'm looking out my windows in nature and I'm like, speak to me, God, prepare me for tonight. Prepare me, right? Yeah. It's the day in, day out process of communion with a God that's very real in my life.
Yeah. So as I reemphasize this for our listeners today, we pause. We pause. Take a moment to do that breath prayer. Anything else we can give them?
I know that I'm a broken record, but you really do have to have an arsenal. You have to have a tool. You have to have, for me, the best one I have found is that nonviolent communication. It's a tool. My whole work is about giving people emotional and mental health tools. So in that moment, you can go, oh, I feel that defense mechanism. Oh, no, what do I go pull? I got to pull caution. I got to go get one of my nonviolent communication skills. Yeah. I've got to go pick that tool up. Is that helpful? Or
you know what? I'm going to shine the light right on me. Okay. And say, this is what I struggle with. I sometimes play a conversation or a conflict. I play a conflict that I anticipate happening at an event in my head. And I'm like, I know I'm going to hear this. So I'm going to react to that, what I need to do. In the silence of my rest, I will have that conflict with someone. And then I'll wake up in a bad mood. And I'll know that you have that strife kind of thing. And you want to let it go. But it's in your throat. And that is where I lay, especially with relatives sometimes, because I anticipate conflict.
Closer, the deeper the cut, the closer the history. When you have a history, I'm just reminded of, it's been a while since I wrote Overcoming Hurtful Words. And so I do have an acronym there in that book called WHOLE. Don't ask me to repeat it, but I can run over and get my book if you want me to. It's over there. But it's 5 steps to prepare yourself. But I do know W was wait. And then H is hold your tongue.
Wait, we'll add to the list here.
O is overlook it. I'll send you the PDF because it is extremely helpful. I have it on a magnet as well.
It available to our listeners.
Yeah. And you just practice those 5. It's basically what we just said. It's just using a different verb.
And you know what? I'm going to say, okay, it's a little bit easier. My kids, if my relatives start picking on my kids, the mama bear.
Ooh, yes.
Step away from the children.
I had 2 clients this week prepping for that. What do I do with Mama and Papa Bear? I know I should have written an article about it. I know. I'm like, okay, I know, but it's the same principle. First of all, you train your whole family in nonviolent communication and whole family in these processes. But I think you hit on something, Amber, too, that when we're at a family gathering, all the baggage walks through the door. All the old narratives walk through the door, right? That doesn't typically happen. It can at a work or school or other event, church, but more so with family. We've got a history, and 9 out of 10, it's a muddy history, if not 10 out of 10. And
and I think too, in situations like I'm the middle child of 5, when I go back into my situation where I'm in a room with all of my siblings, I feel like that little girl again. I still feel 12. I'm like, I'm half a century old. Why do I feel still stuck in that? And you're feeling like you don't hold respect that you do of your siblings,
right?
That maybe somebody else does, and you just, I want to prove myself.
The crazy part is that while you may feel that, I bet everybody else in the room is feeling the weight of themselves as well. And think about that. All we see is our feeling, where we are placed, and we actually react.
We do
react, and not
instead
even
of
realizing
respond.
that everybody else in the room is probably dealing with where they are in their headspace too.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's all the nonverbals. So for me, I'm a highly sensitive person, very intuitive. It makes me good at what I do, but it also it's a curse in my life and a vice that many of times. So I can be in the room and feel the atmosphere and see the face of someone over there, and look at the eye roll over there, and look at this and the hood on. And then I'm just like, I don't know what to do with all of it. And I don't know how to manage all of that. So I think nonverbal is 93% of how we interpret communication. So you've got to pay attention and know that as well. This is just a skill. It's one of my 3 high skills. Learn to communicate well.
You know what, Janell? I think too, I pull back and I just think in my corner.
Yes.
And is that necessarily a healthy place to be? Because I can just like.
Well, that's the thing, Amber. I think what I hear you saying, I want any client that I work with, this is what I always say. I say it to myself. I want to feel safe, seen, heard, known, and feel like I belong in whatever room I'm in, wherever I am in life. If I'm in the post office, just happened this week, and there was a skirmish. And of course, in this day and age, you wait and look for a gun. You look for an exit. And I'm like, there's no exit. Where will I go? What will I do? What can I do in this situation to be a peacemaker? But I think you want to be able to be okay, you, Amber, in the midst of in your family, middle of 5th, to be so good inside of yourself. So, like Lisa said, Jesus was so secure. And if I can be okay in my body, we call that embodiment, right? There's a lot of talk about embodiment, a lot of books coming out finally about it. And not disembody, which is what you're doing. When you go shrink, you're going into that hypovigilant state, and you're not being Amber.
Right.
You're becoming not yourself. You're disembodying from your true, beautiful, radiant, all the things, Amber. And I want to be level. I want to be, I'm okay if they're doing that. It doesn't affect me anymore. That's been the challenge. And that is a big challenge. But if we can be secure and good in ourselves, then we can just let it bounce off or address it if it's needed. Like, please don't use that old narrative anymore. There's no need to bring that up anymore. Messy Janell is not messy Janell anymore.
You have to learn that internally yourself.
You do.
First before you can ever share that with anyone else. Let's take this just to maybe a little bit of a deeper or fresher space. What if the trauma, and we all know trauma is trauma regardless, but what if the trauma is very fresh, or the realization of where your trauma came from is very fresh? What is acceptable during this holiday season? Is it okay to say, no, I don't want to go to this function? Is it okay to safeguard yourself from being in the presence of certain people or certain activities? What tips can you give us to help us preserve where we're at when we are in that very fresh wounded place and sincerely deal with it well.
Table for two is what I did on Thanksgiving. I said that to you guys before we got started. And of course, my kids all live far away, so it wasn't a year for us to have them around the table. But I think there are absolutely times when you have to protect yourself, emotional boundaries, relational boundaries, without a doubt. And the way that I would coach someone to relay that, communicate that is, listen, it's been a tough year, or it's been a tough few months. And I really need to just, or we just need to be a family this year, or I need to be alone this year. If that's truly what you need, because Uncle Joe or Aunt, I don't know, I certainly have it in my family line. Yes. And it might be gravely misunderstood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that is not your problem.
No,
But
it's not.
but it feels, this is where, so part two of that is personalization is a defense mechanism. Okay. So it's one of my primary ones. I take everything. I did it. It's my fault. My dad's an alcoholic because I did something wrong. I'm a bad person. All the shame messages. But if you can, if that's one of the, if you're relating to that, our sweet listeners, then you're now aware of it. So I'm hyper aware of it in a good way. And this isn't personal. I'm not going to take this personal.
Yeah.
My husband's quietness over there, I'm not going to take it personal. It's hard work. None of this is simple, but it's yes. If you need, I'm going to be gut level honest, because I always am. My husband and I are currently not in a church, just currently not. I've had a lot of, I don't know if they're calling it religious trauma, whatever they're calling it these days. I've had a lot of it. And so we're still taking a deep breath. I just can't enter that system yet. And I know it's okay. I've worked hard to get it from my head to my heart. Is it still hard on a Sunday morning? Do I go, oh, I'm a terrible person, I'm not in church? Yeah, I still have those thoughts. But then I go, no, you have permission. God is with you.
One of the things that I have issue with sometimes is I feel that if the person who caused me trauma at a specific event is there, I feel like I don't want to be there to confront those feelings of trauma. And I'm scared of what I might say. And I know that people would say that's not healing and that's not Christ working in you. But sometimes Christ has to work a little bit harder. I have to give me a little bit more time to process hurt. I think that's what the grace of God does, is he knows we're human. He knows that some things take a while to process. And just because it's a hard place to be in a room with somebody who you're feeling that pain from, and just because of that, it doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're
No, but it feels that way. It can in the healing process, right? And we know shame is I am bad, guilt is I did something bad. So we've got to come to terms with that. But I think that what you're talking about, Amber, are triggers, right? So triggers are smell. They're all sensory. It can be the nonverbal look on someone. It can be them not talking. It can be a million things to a million different people. So we have to learn how to take the tension out of those triggers. And it does take prep work. You're right to have a conversation in your head. Oh my gosh, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's preparation. And honestly, if you are in a room with someone that has big T trauma, molestation, sexual, any of those things, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, they come toward you, can put your hand up, say, don't come near me. Please stay away. And you stay calm. I would prefer you not to sit next to me on the couch, please.
Yeah.
Or you remove yourself. You don't have to make a scene. You're in charge. I think this is what I'm hearing most of all. The greatest aha for me was, you know what? I'm in charge of my life. Okay. So a lot of Christ followers go, oh, no, you're not in charge. I'm like, no. God is with me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
His thoughts are my thoughts. His ways are my ways. And if I believe that I am one with Christ, I had someone this past week tell me what I was thinking. I know that you're thinking this and you're doing, and I'm like, I took a moment. I really, you know what I probably wanted to say, but my biggest cause that I champion in my own life is I can think for myself. I can speak for myself. I can say no.
Yeah.
It's really okay. And I said to him, don't ever tell me what I'm thinking. How dare you? No one will ever tell me what I'm thinking in my life anymore. Because that's been the big part of my trauma, religious, spiritual abuse. And so it was very like, I just felt so proud of myself because it was like, no, I'm actually not thinking that. So don't tell me what I'm thinking because you have no idea. And what you're saying is not truth. It might be your truth, but it's not true.
I think it's a good thing as well to talk about how do we, let's say a moment needs to come to confrontation. Let's say it is the right time.
Yes, very good, Lisa.
Okay, let's say it's the right time. How do we tread those waters? Can you give us some tips on how we can tread those waters?
Yes, I'm going to grab my handy paper because this is how I train myself, right? You can insert a pause. So I love this. I'd like a moment to gather my thoughts. I'm not sure. Let me think about that. This sounds important. I'd like to give it some time. I'd like some time to take that in. Can we pause here for a moment? Those are great ways to start something like that. But I think, Lisa, in the moment when you're like, I need to say something, the difference here is between and having authority. And then secondary to that is being aggressive and being assertive. And I do talk a lot about that in my third book, Stronger Every Day. But the difference with assertiveness, and I call it healthy assertiveness, it's what I have trained myself to learn to do. Healthy assertiveness involves a dialogue. It involves both parties being willing to sit at the table and have the conversation, do that active listening we were talking about, holding the space for each other. Okay. So in that moment when you're like, I need to say something, I need to confront, because peacemakers confront.
Exactly. Yes, they do.
They do. Christ said, I came for peace, but I also came with a sword.
That's right.
And there is time to wield a sword.
Exactly. I like what you're saying. Our personalities can be so different.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm one of those people, I think pretty quickly on my feet, and I look at conflict or I see something happening and all of a sudden I'm seeing way down the road and I'm like,
wow,
let's stop it here.
Good.
Let's fix it right now.
Uh-huh.
That's not always the best thing for everyone. No. For me personally, I still have to stop, pause, recognize not everybody is ready for that.
That's
and then
right.
I have to deal with all that angst.
How do
you deal with the angst of these very heated, difficult moments in conflict? What are some good ways to walk ourselves through those very angsty times?
What's going to be something none of us want to hear?
Just say it out loud. Rip the bandage off.
Patience. The waiting room, right? The waiting room. How many waiting rooms have I sat in? I write all kinds of waiting rooms. It's patience. And I would venture to say, Lisa, have you ever done the Enneagram? Do you even know what it is?
I do know what it is. And my children, I have 5 children, they all love to debate what I am.
What do they debate? What do they debate? But this is so fun.
It goes anywhere between an 8 and a 1.
There we go. I just said the same. But a 1, so a 1 is a reformer, someone like yourself. When you were talking, you want to fix it. You have a gift of that. I'm married to a man who is 8% of the time, but he's had to learn how to manage that gift just like you. And that takes, and I definitely feel what I feel deeply is that sometimes you'll see the situation and you see it long term and you see it down the road. I think that's also the call and office of an intercessor. You take it to the closet. You take it boots on the ground in prayer, walking, seeking God, praying to God, seeking the word, praying the word over the situation, and then dropping the wisdom here a little at a time as that person. Because the other part of confrontation, the other part of living in a healthy state with other people is all the parties have to be ready.
Exactly.
It's all about timing.
It is. It is. And understanding that God has a perfect moment.
He actually really does.
Has a perfect moment. The greatest comfort for me is knowing he's not caught off guard by anything.
He never is.
He doesn't
We are.
slumber. He doesn't sleep. He is totally aware of what is going on in each mind in the midst of the struggle. And he isn't just concerned about what's perfect timing for you. He's concerned about perfect timing for all of us.
The system of the family.
Right.
Like I work primarily with family systems.
Right.
So knowing, and I love it. I'm obsessed with it. And I don't know why, because it is super hard on me, but you can just see the light go off there. And then 2 weeks later, working with the light go off there, and has taught me perfect timing. Everything really is perfect and beautiful in his timing. And that's Chronos time and Kairos time. So Chronos right here, according to the clock.
Here right now with the clock.
Eternal.
And God's eternal time.
And I'm not God.
No, and it's really a hard concept to grab a hold of when we talk about that eternal time.
It is.
Our minds really don't catch a glimmer of what that really is because we're so stuck in right now.
Yeah, we are.
Infallible for our mortal headspace to wrap around that.
It is. And that's when it requires that daily conscious relationship with, I love the way the voice calls him eternal one, the voice interpretation of the Bible, the translation. And I just love that. And I use it. And I'm like, eternal one, help me see. Like I just interviewed a beautiful man, Pastor Alan Wright, and he just wrote a book called Seeing as Jesus Sees. And it revolutionized me. It was like, I really do need to see like you see Jesus, because vision is everything.
Exactly.
Especially as a mom, like you're a mom of 5. Now I've got grandkids and I'm a matriarch now in the center of this family. And I want to be a wise matriarch.
Exactly. Yes. And you pray that you can be. Mm-hmm. But part of being wise is, as you said, not always responding, giving other people the opportunity to get to the time and space they need to be to have the conversations and do the things successfully. All of us together.
Take your time. Don't force it. I've had situations recently with the children and stuff where I wanted them to just be at peace with each other, but they need space. We all need, Amber just beautifully said how much she needs time to process. I'm a processor. You're more in the moment and really gifted in that. And I would want you on my team because you would make those decisions that need to be made in the moment. But I think that if you can once again know who you are, know yourself, and know God.
Exactly.
That's the key. There's enough counseling books out there to study for 20 million years. But that to me narrows it all down. I just need to know God and know myself, and then know that I don't need to be right or perfect or any of those things. I know you are probably right. If you asked what your work would be, it would be to know that I don't need to be right. I don't need to be right. I'm going to be proven right anyway. I said to myself, you're always right. It's so annoying, but give me time to catch up. So you're once again going to be someone that needs to go, I don't need to be right.
Nope. Don't need to be right. Don't have to prove a point.
Nope.
As a matter of fact, there's a lot of, the older I get, the more peace I have in that realization. And I feel like that is very helpful. Understanding I don't always have to have something to say.
No.
I can breathe.
It saves so much energy. I used to leave parties like last night and be exhausted.
Right.
But I was really enlivened. It's like, well, I should have had a V8. Yes. I do want to add this and see what you think. And I think above all of it is knowing I'm loved. I already know I've had such a journey with understanding the love that God has for me the last 2 years that I can just be wherever. And it's the reason I don't have to prove myself, that I don't need to be right, is because I just know I'm loved. And a lot, if you want to hear what I have to say, I do say that a lot. I do that. That's another beautiful way to, do you want my opinion?
Do you want to know what I think?
Do you want to know what I think? Because I don't need you to know, but if you want to know what I think, I'm willing to share that.
Exactly.
It saves you energy. You want to save mental energy for the essentials in life. And that's
right.
That's part of that practice.
Amber's internet is wavering, so she's left and entered the room multiple times.
Oh, I'm so sad because she's got so much to
say and so many good insights.
She does.
I'm thrilled to death with this morning. I'm just wondering if you can just come sit and talk to us every Saturday. Is that all right?
I would love that. I know. This was so awesome. I wish we had
some therapy from Janell.
This conversation. It's great.
It's been wonderful. And it's everything that I think we hoped it would be. We are so thankful for your involvement in the book.
And like I said, I'm late to the game, but I will be promoting it in January.
We want you all to know that Janell's story is quite poignant, and I know that there will be many of you that will be able to read her chapter if you haven't already and find yourself having to deal with some of the revelations she has. It's a really great chapter, and for those of you that have not read it, please get your hands on that chapter 7.
It's a great Christmas gift. I'm telling you, it is a great gift for people to just sit around with a bunch of ladies, which is my vision for the future. Let's just all sit around the table and let's just talk about things. And there are so many conversation starters in this book. I think everybody should have a table talk in the new year.
We're putting out a work journal to go with the book.
Fabulous.
It should be coming this spring. We know our month is January. We are including the conversations from the book, the questions from the book, but we also have some new surprises we're putting in there. So
you guys are awesome.
I'm so excited.
I really would love, Janell, your prayers.
Pray over the women that are listening that perhaps this will minister to. Thank you, Janell.
Father, I thank you for Lisa, and I thank you for Amber, and I thank you for this time. As we have spoken, time is really important, and this was a Kairos moment because we have been trying for months in Chronos time to have our time together, but it was for such a time as this. And I do pray. I pray that women all over the world would hear how important it is to stand in the center of my sphere of influence and be healthy. Be a leading lady who's mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, and physically healthy. What do we need to do, Father, to start afresh, to be able to come into this holiday season even, walk across thresholds, and enter that space as a peacemaker? As someone who knows what to say, when to say it, how to say it, or when to be quiet. I want every person listening to receive the lavish love of God and know that He sees you, He hears you, He knows you, He loves you, and you belong to Him. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I'm so thankful that you were with us today.
Thank you.
I'm just thankful because we're afraid if she talks, she will glitch again. She loves you. She's sending you big hearts. And for those of you that have been listening with us today, we just, once again, thank you for joining us. We pray that you all are kicking off your holiday season with a healthy mindset, that you're out there enjoying the moment. We love you, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
In a world that often tries to confine and categorize, best-selling book Leading Ladies, Discover Your God-Grown Strategy for Success, celebrates the diverse tapestry of women just like you and their unique journeys of faith. Join Lisa and I as we partner with over 30 women from every hue, age, and walk of life, united by one mission: to let Christ shine through our gifts, wherever we are. Within the pages of Leading Ladies, you'll find a wealth of wisdom, inspiration, and practical guidance
These women share their personal stories, triumphs, failures, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Leading Ladies is more than just a book. It's a movement, a call to action for women of faith to rise up, support one another, and make a difference in the world. Together, let's celebrate the strength, resilience, and faith of leading ladies from every background and be inspired to let Christ shine through your gifts, wherever you may be. Leading Ladies, discover your God-grown strategy for success. Available now wherever books are sold.